sitting uncomfortably in my chair, feeling angst as I wait for my name to be called. Carrie! Cheerful, applause. I wade through the strings of terror up to the front of the room, where I stand at the lectern. All eyes on me. All friendly eyes, except one pair. That pair of eyes is staring greedily at a sandwich. It's that sandwich that all of us have grown to covet over the years here at Toastmasters. Those eyes look up at me expectantly. I have to speak, and my face turns red. I have to speak. I look down at my notes and cannot make heads or tails of them, and I look back at that sandwich. And I wish I were sitting on a picnic blanket in a park with a sandwich, some cheese and crackers maybe, and some wine. Lots of wine. Did I say wine? The sparkling variety, but no, I'm here and I have to speak. And this is my very first experience giving an evaluation. Distinguished Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and I believe I'm now Russian, and our august guests. The question I have for you is this. Are you going to be a distinguished Toastmaster? Am I going to be a distinguished Toastmaster? Today I'm going to convince you to become one. And not just a distinguished Toastmaster, but a distinguished person. And I'm going to do that in 4 easy steps. First, we're going to explore why you joined Toastmasters in the first place, or if you haven't yet joined Toastmasters, why you're visiting today. The second, we're going to walk through some of those challenges in your life. And the third, we're going to create our vision of what distinguished means. And number 4, we're going to create your next steps. And yeah, we'll just play with that a little bit. So, why did you join Toastmasters? I have a confession to make. I'm not afraid of public speaking. Throw the tomatoes, get that girl. No. I do get a little stage fright, especially with a big speech like this, and especially if I know I'm still using notes a little bit. So I do get nervous, but I love it, honestly. I've got a stage, I've got an audience, a captivated audience. And I love it. But I hate giving evaluations. And I despise being Toastmaster of the day. And I loathe being the awe counter or grammarian. Now, I don't despise being the Toastmaster of the day any longer. I kind of actually like it. I still tolerate, barely, being grammarian or awe counter. But I still hate being an evaluator. Nowadays, you won't see my face turn red anymore. You're not going to hear my knees knocking, and you're not going to hear my heart beating so loudly that it just kind of takes over the whole room and blinds you. Yes, hearing can blind you. At least most of the time. And speaking of time, I think I'm the only Toastmaster here that can turn a 2 to 3 minute evaluation into 4 to 5 minutes, almost a speech. I can do that. But I do love giving speeches. And the leadership part of Toastmasters was the surprise for me coming into Toastmasters. I'm going to get this here. So my question to you then is, why did you join? And you're going to explore that right now. So I'm going to pass these down. I ask you not to actually write on them yet. Pass one, keep one, pass it down. We're going to do it in a little exercise that I borrowed from a TED Talk speaker named Patty Dabrowski. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Patty helps companies to create a vision for their mission, a mission vision, and then set goals and actually achieve them. And she does that using pieces or templates like this in her work. You're going to see her tagline down at the bottom. It's use your creative genius. And so you know that that's from her, not me. Again, I didn't create it. So we're going to take a little creative liberty with this. All right, we're going to stray from the exact instructions that she normally gives. And I think we all have them? Yes. Okay, so on the left side where it says current reality, what I would like you to do is I'd like you to take a moment and either think back to that decision that brought you to Toastmasters, or your decision that you're thinking in your head about whether or not to join. And I would like you to just take a little quick sketch of why you joined. Now this can be super easy. For example, you could have you were terrified to speak, so you joined. Maybe you picture yourself, wow, look how big you are, on a stage. This is you being maybe a public speaker. That's what you want to do with your life. Or perhaps, maybe it is all about those leadership skills. You want to see yourself as a CEO or something like that. So just very quickly, jot down what brought you. Quick sketch. If you're still working, I'll go ahead and continue while you finish up. Now that you've drawn that, we're going to move to step number 2. On Toastmaster again. Dread. I hate this. This project is motivation, and you've got the book here, and I just know that I'm going to get up there like last time and probably mess up all my notes and forget to call out timing on speeches and mix things up. Sheila and I are talking. She's not my mentor, but we're talking about this project. And she brings up the importance of motivation. It's interesting information. I feel it's useless though because I'm going to mess it all up. I go home and I'm looking at my competent leader manual. And I open it up to the project and I look at motivation. And I start reading it. And as I'm reading it, ding, wait a minute. So everything I'm reading in this manual, this motivation project, means that I'm supposed to learn how to implement this to motivate a team. So it's not just about being Toastmaster of the day, It's about motivating a team. Do you know how fun it is to motivate a group of people? It's extremely satisfying. You get to let them all have their own say in, well, let them all have a part that fits them perfectly. You get to bring that group of people to a higher level of themselves because they're acting in an excited fashion. And you're doing this in complete service to them. So you're not only motivating them, but you're serving them at the same time. And you're in complete control. That's not too shabby. You have final say of everything. Kind of fun. So I hop onto Easy Speak, and I pick out that theme, and hand select all my roles, have the meeting. It's pretty great. Sheila tells me that my role as Toastmaster that day was the best she'd ever seen. And I don't believe her. I want to, but nah, I don't believe her. But at least now, I understand that why we give the why we get the competent communicator or the competent leader manual. I understand that it's not just about fulfilling a task, making sure that all the roles are filled, which was kind of my suspicion of why we did it, but it's to take skills that we're going to learn from each project and use those skills to better ourselves as leaders. Competent leader manuals. And this makes us better people, more august people, and great humans. So with that in mind, it's time to get a little bit personal as we turn back to our pictures. In that same section where you drew your reason for joining, I would like you to draw a few of your own personal or professional challenges that you're facing right now. Could be maybe you're trying to get more organized, or maybe you're trying to, maybe you have to give constructive critique to a colleague. And maybe you want to try to avoid conflict. Maybe you're the kind of person who's like dodges. So just draw maybe a couple of scenarios, little scenes where you're feeling challenged right now. Good. While you're finishing up, we'll move on to step number 3, to create our own vision of our own distinguished self. Improv. Did I hear her right? Improv. Tatiana has just asked a favor. Will I be the Toastmaster at an upcoming meeting and run it as an improv? Would I run it? Yes. Let me think about that. Yes. Very excited. Now this is a challenge I can rise to. Once again, I hand select. This time it's easier to hand select to my group because really there's no roles except the general evaluator. So I create the agenda. I throw in some really great improv ideas. I Google Tina Fey's rules of improv. which really aren't hers, but that's a whole other story. I send those to all the members. We have a small group, but that's okay. And we have a meeting that is just a splash. We get people up here who were not going to come up, and they did, bravely. And it's just so much fun. Now, do I take credit for this great meeting? Not really. See, here's how that all kind of goes down. Tatiana, who I think was either the president or the VP of education at the time, saw something in me that she felt would be a way to contribute to the club. I took on the assignment because improv? Yeah, sure, I would love to. Totally up my alley, totally in my skill set. Am I a master? No, but I have been a member of an improv group and I'm super excited about this. So she sees that. I have the talent and skill set, so I apply it. And that's what makes the meeting a great meeting. It's the meeting of a desire and a skill set, and then it's given to everybody else. So, at this meeting, the success was owed to stepping into our bigger selves, each of us, our distinguished selves, and even the person who came up who was scared stepped into their distinguished self. So this is where we look back at your list. And on the other side of the page, you will see your desired new reality. Now, I'm not imagining that your whole lives need a change here, so just let's swipe that away. This is just a few goals that you might have in your life right now. Well, first of all, we're going to assume that one of them is DTM, Distinguished Toastmasters. Maybe that's something you want to earn. I'm pretty sure it's on Jack's radar now that he realizes how close he is. Maybe you're wanting to up your business. Maybe you're wanting to retire, play with your grandkids more. Maybe you're wanting to write a book, a second book. Maybe you're wanting to get a dog and train it. Whatever it is, one or two goals, just jot them down over on the other side. Just kind of a little picture. Or 3 or 4, whatever you want. And as most of you have finished, we'll move on to the 4th way I'm going to convince you. Number 4 is to create your action steps. Now on this sheet, in her speech, her action steps are to see it, believe it, and take an action, do some sort of thing. Obviously, that's great. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about these steps a little deeper. We'll go over that just a second. I have to give a critique. Oh God, no, it's not a critique. I have to go to a colleague and I have to tell him something he's not going to want to hear. Someone I respect, but who's a little out of his league and has not wanted to hear from anybody that he's out of his league, let alone me. My face is even redder than the time I went up for that evaluation. And my nerves are frazzled, and every fear that I can imagine of how he's going to react and how the other people at the table are going to react fills me with dread, and I just almost don't speak. But I have to, because it's greater than me. And so I tell this group, I have something to say. Yeah, Carrie, what is it? And I go into the project at hand, the problems, and my opinion is smashed in an instant. Nobody likes what I'm saying. Every single person at the table, including the two that brought me into the situation, bail. And I have to stick to my guns. And I never would have been able to do it had I not been at Toastmasters. Had I not practiced time and time again, giving evaluations that terrify me, telling people what they're doing wrong, even though we don't do it that way. In my mind, that's, I've always hated even dinging the bell, because I have to let them know they odd or and I don't like to do that. But I have done it for 4 years. And just before that 4-year mark, I'm put in this situation. And I rose to the occasion, and I was the most unpopular girl in the room, and I still stuck to my guns. Did I get what I want out of the situation? No. But I stuck to my guns, and I did what was right for the project. And now a few people have come to realize that there was quite a bit of veracity to the things that I had brought to the conversation. So now your job at this point is to look at your stairs, your little steps. But I want you to think about where you are now on the one side and where you want to be on the other side. And I want you to think of just maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3, because there's 3 spots, action steps that you can take. And you gotta go quick because we're at a red light. I didn't see a yellow. Boom! And while you write that, I'll wrap this up. And I'll ask you, am I going to become a distinguished Toastmaster? It's not just about making leaders. It's about making leaders who have empathy, who are supportive, and who always are an asset to the club. Toastmasters are where great leaders are made, and it's also where great humans are made. So I ask you to finish that up and take it home, and once you get there, look it over. And then I'm going to ask a couple of brave souls to take a snapshot of your picture. And you can upload it privately into our group if you want, into our Facebook page. And I want you to do the hashtag FutureDT. And I'll see how many of you were brave enough to join me in becoming a future Toastmaster, distinguished Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jack. When Tony Henderson called me when I was somewhere 20 minutes on the road already, saying the battery on our car died, I kind of knew I would have to step in as an evaluator, because I don't even pick up and look at my messages till I get here. So I was particularly challenged also by the topic of this speech in the professional speaker manual. You're supposed to use a 4-step method to persuade or inspire people to do something and getting them to emotionally commit to an action. And the topic was becoming a DTM, which I have no interest in at all. The best thing was that I didn't get table topics because I knew you'd call me out and I'd have to back that up. But use the 4-step method, Carrie, and outlined it at the beginning very simply, and then with grace, you went through each step with incredible honesty and your own self-talk and personal history, which added to the emotional commitment that some people may have made, even on those charts that you did. And there were surprises in your outline when you got to personally doing it yourself. because it was almost like a confession. I'm not afraid of professional speaking, being in front of an audience. You know, my goal is to be a well-paid professional speaker. You know, and most of us walk in here with that fourth fear of professional speaking. But then the second surprise was, but I despise evaluating people. I despise giving other people bad news about what could be better about their speeches. And then we identified with the uncomfortableness of that. And that contributed to her moving to the next step about exploring the challenges in your own life. At one point, Carrie, just for feedback, you were looking at the wonderful handouts that you made for us, and I thought as a competent advanced speaker, she was looking at notes, but she wasn't. I thought she was looking at the notes, she was looking at the handouts that she might have had ready to be passed out before that. And she also talked about the challenges that are when you have to motivate not just one person, but a whole team of people and get them to work together. She asked people to draw on the papers their answers to the first two steps. Why do you become a Toastmaster? And is it fun to motivate people? She might have suggested in those first two that people could have written, you know, because I see some people writing anyway. Drawing is a challenge for some people. And at the end, she asked us to jot down those goals. Overall, if I were inspired to be a DTM, I would have been emotionally persuaded. Because of her delivery, her timing was excellent in between the questions and getting you to think. And her facial expression, she made contact with everyone. So overall, I hope you got some new DTM visionaries.